Fariduddin Attar was one of the Sufi poets of the 12th century. In the tongue of a poet, eaten in his mouth, there is a key to the treasure trove. Now we'll take the key, especially in his most famous work, Mantiquut-Toir, the Conference of the Birds. In 1220, Abu Hamid Muhammad bin Ibrahim Fariduddin Attar was born in Nishapur, Persia. The name Attar is a title or laqab given by the society according to his profession as a doctor. Idrisha mentions that his father bequeathed a medicinal house to Attar, so his surname, and according to Sufi style, is Attar. Because of this, he was called the perfumer or Attar. The life of Attar is not known for certain because he himself didn't write an autobiography, nor did he ever write his personal life in his works, so we only know very little about his life. Like other young people at that time, Attar started his education by reading the Quran and other Islamic sciences. He also studied medicine under the guidance of Majiduddin al-Baghdadi. During the time, Attar had also shown an interest in literature, especially poetry and prose. This was inseparable from the environment at that time, the era of the Seljuk Empire, where the development of Persian mystical poetry was growing massively. There is no certainty when Attar began studying and performing Sufism. There is only an anecdote about the change of his life. It is reported that one day when Attar was sitting with his friend at a shop, his perfume shop, suddenly an old poor man appeared. Thinking that the poor man wanted to beg, Attar immediately got up from his seat, rebuking him and sending him away from his shop. Calmly the poor man replied, "I don't mind leaving your shop, and even I don't mind leaving this world and its splendor. But what about you?" Attar gasped, then answered spontaneously, "I also don't mind leaving this world." Before Attar finished answering, the poor man fell and died instantly. Attar was shocked by it. He then left everything to wander all over the country to meet the Sufi masters. Several years later, at the age of 35, he returned to his homeland as a well-known spiritual master. He continued his profession as a pharmacist and a perfume seller, in addition to giving spiritual guidance. It is said that Attar once helped little Rumi when Rumi and his family migrated from Balkh. Attar even predicted that the little boy Rumi would occupy a high position in Sufism. However, later Rumi, when he had become a famous Sufi poet, compared himself to Attar by saying, "Attar traveled through all the 7 cities of love, while I'm only at the bend of the first alley." Attar wrote several works. It is said that when there was no customer in his shop, he spent his time writing both poetry and prose. Islamic scholars have different opinions on the number of Attar's works. Some say 40 books, some say 114 books, and some say that Attar wrote 200,000 verses. Some popular works of Attar include Tazkiratul Awliya, the Memorial of the Saints, the Divine Book, the Book of Mysteries, and his magnum opus is Mantiquut-Toir, the Conference of the Birds. The Conference of the Birds is an epic allegorical poem about the story of all the birds from all over the world which were gathering and about to wander towards Sumerk. I'll summarize the Conference of the Birds. In this world, every country must have a king. How can the bird kingdom have no king at all? We cannot allow this situation to continue. We must work together and go find a king for us, for there is no country that is well governed without a king. They began to convene to solve the big problem. Hoopoe was so attracted and confidently stood in front of them all. A patch on its chest means that he had earned a special honor that signified his wisdom. The crest on his head was the crown of righteousness. "My brothers and my sisters," Hoopoe opened his speech, "I am one of those who have tasted the divine secrets. I am a messenger from the heavenly kingdom. I have tasted divine knowledge. Know that I always accompanied Prophet Solomon whenever I traveled, and I have known the boundaries of the world, both the phenomenal world and the unseen world. I know the king well, but I cannot fly alone to meet him. Free yourself of shame, pride, and denial. Now lift your feet from the earth and fly with joy to the palace of the king. Her name is Sumerk. She is the queen of all the birds. Indeed, we are far from her, but really she is extremely close to us." As a footnote, according to Said Hussein Nasser, Sumerk linguistically refers to in the feminine. Moreover, in Arabic, Sumerk is called Al-Anqa, which is also feminine, mu'annath. And indeed, Attar himself also refers to that or essence as usual in Sufi poetry as the female beloved. And the word essence itself, that in Arabic, is also feminine, which refers to infinity and beauty as the prototype of femininity in the highest sense of this reality. All created beings long for her, wanting to go home in her presence. Her beauty is incomparable, her majesty is limitless. Her feathers have fallen to the earth, and every creature reflects a bit of her beauty and majesty. Quotes, how strange that at the beginning the Seamok manifested herself in the middle of the night in China. One of her feathers fell in the middle of China. Of necessity, excitement, and agitation filled the whole country. That feather is now in the museum of that land. That is why it is said, seek knowledge even in China. There is nothing in this world that is not astonished when you look at her. However, don't imagine this journey is short and easy. We must have a heart as wide as the ocean to be able to take a step on this extraordinary path. She is there, the point on the top of Mount Kaf, which is very far from you all. Listening to Hupu's speech, the birds were fascinated and eager to take the journey. However, they were also considering whether they could perform the tiring journey or not. One by one, they came up with their excuses. The nightingale stated, I love the rose, and looking at it makes me happy. I have had enough of the roses. There is no need for the tiring journey to the kingdom of Seamok. Hupu immediately replied, hey, the rose can easily wither, and its beauty is not eternal. The wise will seek eternal beauty. The peacock also gave excuse. I used to live with Adam and Eve in paradise, but in the end I was expelled with them. My wish is to go back to where I came from. That's why I have no desire to go on the journey in search of the kingdom of Seamok, and blah blah blah. Hupu replied, you have strayed from the straight path. The kingdom of Seamok is more glorious than anything, even paradise. It is the ocean. Why do you want to return to that paradise, which is just a drop of a dew? The poultry put forward an excuse. I'm used to living in purity and I'm used to swimming in water. I don't need other things. I can't get out of a puddle of water and I can't live in a dry place. Hupu replied, don't you realize that the waves will drown you at any moment? Water is only good for those who are beautiful and clean-faced. And if you are like that, fine. But how long will you be able to remain pure and clean like water? Then the eagle said, I'm used to living happily in the mountains. How can I leave my pleasant place? Hupu replied, you have been ensnared by worldly deception. Realize that your abode will perish one day, and even your pleasures will fade away at any moment. Then the wren complained, I'm just a small and weak bird. There is not any bird like me that can travel that far. Hupu replied, don't lose your hope. This path is not for those who are pessimistic. If you have 100 doubts, at least subtract 1, so that the doubts remain 99, and make that one doubt as a torch of hope that ignites your heart for optimism to fly to the presence of Seamok. Another bird said, Oh Hupu, because you know better the way to the kingdom of Seamok, and it is you who wants us to be with you. While for us, the journey is frightening. You had better go alone. In such a tiring journey, let alone there are many dangers that threaten along the way, we certainly cannot accompany your journey to Seamok. Listening to what the bird and all birds said, Hupu said, remember, I must not neglect to convey my advice to all of you. My intention is pure. What causes you all to look for various excuses? Is it just because you are used to living a good life? And why do we allow our holy ideals to be unfulfilled only because you are manipulated by the deceitful enjoyment? A strong will, great hope, and a steadfast and patient heart must be able to pass through all difficulties. Hearing Hupu's answer, one of the birds asked, So how to arrive at the kingdom of Seamok? Hupu replied, we have to cross 7 valleys. Then we'll arrive at the kingdom of Seamok. No one can return to the Proven Dimension after having traveled such a great distance. And it's also impossible to say how many obstacles we will encounter. Just be patient. The first valley is the Valley of Quest. The second is the Valley of Love. The third is the Valley of Knowledge. The Valley of Detachment. The Valley of Unity. The Valley of Wonderment. and the seventh is the valley of poverty and annihilation. There is nothing beyond them. They understood how difficult the journey would be, especially for creatures like them. However, the other birds, ignoring the suffering they were about to experience, finally decided to immediately set out the long journey. For many years they crossed all the mountains and valleys, lands and seas, and most of their life was spent in the journey. Various kinds of obstacles and difficulties hit and toppled them one by one. In the end, only a few of them actually got to the glorious kingdom where the Seamok was. Of the thousands of birds that left, almost all of them vanished and died. Many lost in jungle. Others had an accident on the top of a high mountain. Some died because of the unbearable thirst. Others were dazzled and stupefied by worldly objects. And many stopped because of the temptation of profane pleasures, so that they forgot their original noble ideals, namely to meet their queen. Only 30 birds arrived at the kingdom. And even though they had arrived, they were still wavering, afraid and anxious, without any feather or wing. In front of the kingdom, they were blocked by the gods. The god asked them, "Who are you? Why do you come here? What can you do in this magnificent kingdom?" They replied, "We have come here to meet our queen. The reason we come here is an unbearable longing for her. In this intense longing, love completely encompasses our existence." The god replied, "O poor birds, whether you exist or not means nothing to the queen. Thousands of creatures in the world are nothing more than ants in front of the gates of her kingdom, let alone you. Just go back where you came from, O lowly creatures." Hearing that, they were shocked and drooping. Even so, after thinking for a while, one of the birds said, "Does our queen refuse and insult us? And if so, doesn't her insult turn into respect?" Majnun once said, "If all mankind on this earth sing praises to me, I'll not respect, I'll not accept it. I prefer Layla's insult. One insult Layla gives me is better than 1,000 compliments from any other woman." The god insisted, "You will be scorched by her light." How can the moths escape from the light's bulb when they long to be united with it? If we are now refused to meet, what are we supposed to do? We are like moths that want to unite with the light bulb. Hasn't the queen said, "Whoever gives his heart to the true owner will not have any trouble"? After the gods finished testing their fortitude, then the gates opened. They entered. Then 100 veils were opened one by one before them, and a new world appeared before them. The light of all lights shone brightly. They muttered to themselves, "Where is the queen? Where is Seamok?" A moment later they got an inspiration, and after they ruminated on it deeply, then they understood the real situation. Their hearts were calm and peaceful, free from all troubles, and then they realized that Seamok was with them. The 30 birds, Seamok, realized that they themselves were Seamok. They saw without the slightest doubt that it was this Seamok, that the Seamok was really this Seamok. Then the amazement struck them into a daze. They saw themselves Seamok in all, and Seamok was in all the Seamok. They looked at this and that, no difference. When they looked this and that at once, Seamok and Seamok were one and the same Seamok. It was as if there were two Seamoks, but in fact there was only one. That was this, and this was none other than that. Then they were sinking into a sea of amazement. Quotes, because they understood nothing whatever they said, they questioned the Seamok without using language. They implored it to unveil the great mystery, to solve the riddle of this reality of the us and this reality of the thou. Without the aid of language too, this answer came from Her Majesty. "My son-like Majesty is a mirror. He who comes sees himself in that mirror, body and soul and body, he sees himself entirely in it. Since you came as a Seamok, 30 birds, you appeared as 30 sea in that mirror. If 40 birds or 50 come, the veil will likewise be lifted before them. Had you become a multitude, you would yourself have looked and you would have seen yourselves. I am far, far above Seamok. said the birds, for I am the essential and eternal Simak. Therefore engulf yourselves in me, that ye may find yourselves again in me. Afterwards, the birds were annihilated forever in Simak. Their shadows were devoured by the lights of the lights. To be consumed by the lights of the presence of the Simak is to realize that I don't know whether I am you or you are me. I have disappeared in you and duality has perished. Be nothing so that your form will become established. As long as you are, how can Wujud establish itself in you? See you soon.